Welcome to the Attack Action Podcast,
where we talk about friendship, fun times, and most importantly, flesh and blood. Here are your hosts, Taylor and Isaac.
Hello, Attactioneers. This is your host, Taylor, coming to you live from my house, like usual. And with me, as always, live from his house, sometimes, is Isaac. How's it going, buddy?
I'm doing all right. I'm live right now, but you'll be listening to this recorded. So my dog just dropped her bone. Yeah, I'm doing okay. My life's a bit of a whirlwind right now. I'm like, my girlfriend and I are separating, which is pretty hard. My mom needs a surprise remodel of her kitchen, so I've been helping with that. We did a prescribed burn at my house yesterday, which I might have breathed like way too much smoke and or poison oak smoke. So if I have vocal issues, that's probably why. But I also got to open a bunch of Everfest packs with you guys last weekend and play some Monarch Limited, which was all very great. So thanks for that.
You're welcome. I'm not really sure who you're thanking, but you're welcome nonetheless.
You and my other buddies who did that with me.
Oh, okay, cool. I thought you were talking to the listeners for a second.
Thank you all out there.
Yeah, thank you.
For blessing my Monarch draft.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you know, life is ever changing, ever busy. I can't believe it's Monday right now. I had a real grinder of a week last week.
You have some pretty exciting news, though. How are you doing, Taylor?
Oh, I'm worn out. So my basketball team made a bit of school history on Friday. We beat our rival in our final regular season of the game, home game, and won by 1 point in overtime to clinch the league championship, which is the first time we have won it outright in 30 years. So that's why I am a little hoarse still. I just screamed my head off for a whole game and then for like a very long celebration.
Awesome.
Totally.
Also, they probably know this by now, but this is our local high school that we went to.
Yeah.
And yeah, pretty great, pretty big deal. Great job.
Thank you. Yeah, it really is a incredible moment for me personally and for our community. And I really hope my players, I hope somehow that this like experience changes their life in, you know, one way or another, whether it's through basketball or just the confidence of the fact that they accomplished, you know, something so incredible. So yeah, I could go on and on. I had a big cry on Saturday when it finally like all sunk in, and you know, my years of hard work and stuff and etc. You know, it just meant a lot to me personally to make that happen. So
this is like every sports movie played out in real life. You know, couldn't have been any cooler. 1 point in OT against their rivals.
Yeah, totally. It was awesome.
Just so cool.
Yeah, that's what I told them before the game. I'm like, just enjoy the fact that you're in this moment, you know? Like, not everybody gets to have their final game of this regular season like this, and especially for my seniors, like, you know, you don't get to always go out this way, you know? It's pretty crazy. So super stoked, but my real money maker is maybe a little ruined for a few days more. So bear with me with my my scratchiness. It's definitely getting better, but on like Saturday when you came over, I was definitely like even worse.
I maybe am a bit slow at the boat, but I did not know exactly what you meant when you said your moneymaker is ruined, and my brain just went, what? What is his moneymaker?
Oh,
What are all the things it could be?
well, it's
But
either
I know
my
what you mean.
voice or my butt, according to my wife. So maybe I'm actually okay.
Anyway,
Yeah.
welcome to our Flesh and Blood podcast, where we talk about all things flesh and blood and some other things sometimes.
Yeah. Oh man. Cool. Well, let's get into some news, Isaac. So some news has happened other than the release of Everfest. We got our first calling announcement, which is coming in Indianapolis in oh gosh, I have to look it up. I believe it's at the end of March. I should have been more prepared.
And also, the second calling was announced along with the first Pro Tour ever, which is a huge deal.
Oh, right. Have we not talked about the Pro Tour?
Oh, shit. I thought we had not yet.
I don't know. It's
Um,
the Indianapolis calling is Friday, March 18th to Sunday, March 20th, classic constructed format.
um, we have not talked about the Pro Tour, maybe on the reaction step, but not on our podcast because that was right
Oh,
after
shout
Australian
out.
and New Zealand Nats.
Yeah, shout out to the reaction step YouTube exclusive video pod
Shout out to
with
us.
well, Arsenal Pass shouts out themselves every episode, so
Oh, okay.
it's totally fine. So yeah, also the Pro Tour is announced. We'll just go over it if we haven't talked about it. So that is coming to New Jersey. Yay.
Woo!
Friday, May 13th to Sunday, May 15th. It is also a classic constructed, I believe, tournament.
I think the whole production team over at Fresh and Buds is pretty psyched.
Totally. Yeah. If we make it to the Pro Tour, Tommy Fresh, we're crashing in your spare bedroom. See the great state of New Jersey. I've never been to Jersey or New Jersey.
Me
So,
neither.
yeah,
I don't even know where the
quite the
original is.
experience.
All right. So, yeah, there's a few things to break down about the Pro Tour just really quick. You can look up all the information, but you can cash in a PTI to go to this. You can win one of the many ProQuest events coming up this month already.
Yep.
Or you can qualify not by ELO, but via XP. However, you have to be one of the top 100 players in the world to qualify. So if you were not already doing this and maybe grinding over the holidays just because, it might be a little bit tough. But those are the deets. Is something I never say.
Yeah, it's I'm excited for the Pro Tour. I'm surprised by quite a few things. I'm surprised it's in New Jersey. I don't know anything about New Jersey, so maybe it's just a great convention city, or the fact that it's kind of closer to Europe in terms of flights and that sort of thing makes it more ideal.
I mean, it's even further from Asia and Australia,
Right.
New Zealand, and all that, though. But I don't know.
Yeah, totally. But the thing that I think is really weird and that we've talked about kind of a bit in our Discord has been just the 90-day XP being able to qualify that way. And so my biggest issue with that sort of thing is it just feels, I don't know, it just feels weird for what it does to the rest of the community, right? Making that like any time you can get XP more valuable to certain individuals who want to grind it, and that might lead to maybe like a bad play experience for more casual players who could care less but just want to have fun, you know?
Right. Like it turns an armory into a top level competitive event
Yeah. And
for
then
those
yeah, yeah,
grinding. Yeah.
yeah. And then it also uh, is like incentivizes people who have or you know, if you have like you're unemployed or you have a weird work schedule or something, you know, you can just play online armories and count that as XP. So like you could be playing way more than perhaps, you know, a person who is I don't know, more of a professional level player, but who has like a, you know, lifestyle currently that can't sustain you know, local events 5 days a week with armories online 7 days a week or something like that. So
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree because I do like the idea of being able as like a normal person or normal player, like having a chance or a path to ProQuest. You know, like it's mostly pros or mostly people with a PTI or whatever, but then there is this avenue for, you know, if you're like an average Joe and you know you have the time or something, you could like go for it, which is pretty fun, I think. But yeah, I think in practice it just turns into, you know, if you have to get up every day and like, you know, go teach high school or go to the lumber yard or whatever, you know, then you can't play 17 Italian armories in 3 days online, which is
yeah.
just like, it's kind of weird to incentivize that so much, I think.
Yeah. That's exactly how I feel too, because then it's more about the quantity of your play rather than the quality of your play, right? And it won't
Hmm.
matter if it's like online blitz skirmishes or on TTS or whatever. However, you can get the XP, you could just like get it, you know. Um, and so there's a bit of, I guess, uh, disingenuousness about that to me, you know. But at the same time, I can understand that, like, well, if you're gonna be on the pro tour, professional, most professionals who are at a very high level have some sort of like sacrifice that they have to have in order to attain the level of professionalism that they desire. So there's a bit of that, which I'm okay with. But I am just mostly concerned about the everyday person who is much more the heart and soul of our game than online skirmish grinders. You know?
Yeah. God, I forgot what I was going to say. But yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, it's tough enough if your local armory is like a shark tank with pros anyway. But then if it, you know, certain armories can turn into like really high stakes events for some people. And, you know, other people just want to go and kind of play casually. Right. Um,
Yeah.
so there is one other detail about the Pro Tour that I wanted to touch on briefly. It's the fact that uh, PTIs can be gifted,
Yeah.
which, you know, in spirit sounds great because it's like if you have two PTIs and I don't have one, but we both want to go, you know, you could gift me one and then we'll go and have a blast. But in the real world, it just turns into PTIs being sold online, which
Yeah.
translates into being able to buy your way into a professional competition, which like I mean, for somebody who doesn't have a PTI but like has the opportunity right now is like, I want to go to this part of history. You know, it doesn't seem that shady, but then when you just look at it as like a respected uh professional competitive tournament, I feel like it kind of casts a shadow on the that aspect of it, I guess. I'm not explaining that very well, but
No, I totally get it. It's like this whole it's like wrapped up in the XP thing, right? Like for us it feels like the Pro Tour is like, it is. It's that level above the callings and is at that, national level, you know what I mean? International even, So like the Pro Tour can be 100%, we're going to have people from many different countries there. Um so that there just should be kind of like a bit of, I don't know, uh what's the word I'm looking for? A higher standard, I suppose, right? And if, you know, and so all of those things are wrapped in together that makes the Pro Tour feel kind of weird, that you could have like just beat the living crap out of noobs in, like, I don't know, Greenland in their online skirmishes like 7 days a week to get to the Pro Tour, or either grinding way too much or have bought your way into the Pro Tour kind of sullies kind of the sanctity of the the event and the level that I think it should be at.
yeah, like in most professional level leagues or tournaments or events, there is some sort of um, bar, or you have to earn your way on, which you could argue that XP does in a certain way. But anyway, those are just some concerns. I didn't organize a better one, but just some things I've thought about. The last thing is they also released this XP requirement halfway through the 3-month window, which is a little
Right.
bit weird.
Yeah.
Countries who had their nationals during this window get a bit of a bump. People that grinded through December and January get a bit of a bump. I don't know how much that'll affect how many people, but it just seems like a bit odd of a announcement. Like, why not just announce a 45-day XP and start it now? Or, I don't know.
Yeah,
Just these are just some notes on that
yeah.
people have been
Yeah, or
chattering about.
restart the 90-day XP, or if you're concerned because like Europe hasn't had enough, or Asia, hasn't had enough professional level events, um, then just open up, like, the top 4 in the ProQuest can qualify for Pro Tour 1, right?
Right. I mean, that seems like the best and easiest solution to everything, but
Yeah, and why
for some
would
reason they didn't do that.
yeah, if you're going to have the ProQuest be that you have to win it, and that's the standard is like 1, then like you shouldn't also then allow grinders. Now, I'm sorry if this like offends somebody who's like pretty psyched to just freaking grind it out and get her done. Um, so I fully apologize, but this is just um, the way I see it, and I could be totally wrong as well. Um, so
Yeah, or top 2 from each pro
yeah,
question, like however the numbers worked out. But in order to get more people, you'd think that would be the way to go. But the counter is the top 100 players in the world are all players who have played quite a lot already, and
yeah,
most likely and are very involved in the game. So maybe that's a small enough number that you are actually inviting many top players.
yeah, yeah. This also might be the only time this happens as well, because of like COVID and stuff, that we just haven't had enough professional level events for people to
Mhm.
get on the ELO boards,
Yeah,
um,
definitely.
and that sort of thing. So this might just be a one-time thing. So
Oh,
we'll
speaking of
we'll see what happens.
competition in Europe, though, they are going to announce a calling in Europe to make up for the one that got canceled. So
Hell yeah.
look for that news coming up. It's one of the grayed out screens on LSS's website.
Oh yeah. Calling Europe.
They
Yep.
gotta tease you for a bit first.
Totally. Cool. Hell yeah. All right. I think that's it for the news. It's kind of a long, ranty news segment, but that's okay.
It's a
How
hot
about some?
topic.
Yeah, totally. It really is. Um, Shout outs, Isaac. Do we have any shout outs for today?
We do. We wanted to shout out the Instant Speed podcast.
Hell yeah.
And Flake, who seems like a really, really nice guy and does a great job over there. But most recently, had an interview with James White himself that, as always, is very interesting because he usually gives some insight into LSS's decision making process and that kind of thing. James White also, is I don't know how you put like a bit more frank than you might expect and sometimes more
Yeah.
open or willing to chat about certain things. So interviews with him tend to be more interesting or illuminating than just like a PR statement or
Right.
whatever. So,
Yeah.
they're always pretty enjoyable. And, Flake's worked very hard to be a, professional newscaster. I don't know what the label is, but, he's doing a great job.
A talking head.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, after listening to that interview, I was like, boy, the person in charge of this game I love very much is very inspiring and uh, just has a lot of really great things to say and makes me feel comfortable with their leadership with the thing that I find very precious. So, uh, that was, just another gold star for Flesh and Blood.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Like, uh, he inspires you to support the game.
Mm-hmm.
He makes you believe in it because of how solid their company and the game is, but also just makes you want to believe in it. So it's always great to be reassured.
Yeah, yeah, totally. You're like, oh, cool. It's
Yeah.
okay that we've had bans and that there's this weird pathway to the pro tour. That's okay. James White's got me. I'm gonna be fine. You
Yeah,
know?
totally.
Yeah. Cool. All right. We have no listener mail this time, but if you would like to ask us a question, leave us a comment or slide into our DMs on Twitter. You can find our handles in the show notes and that sort of thing. On to the main topic, Sir
Bum, bum,
Isaac.
bum. All right.
So, talk to me about what it was like opening Everfest.
It was fantastic. Uh, just like, I mean, it really is just like Crucible, right? There's a plethora of majestics and even rares that you want. There's just so many cards that you're happy to open. A lot of the commons are also pretty valuable for the classes they support.
Mm-hmm.
So opening each pack is just like a treasure trove of cards. We did it, us four best friends that play the game together, trying to slowly open the packs and savor the moment. And yeah, it's just a blast.
Yeah, I had a ton of fun, and it was actually a really great experience. Just like having some beverages, taking 30-minute breaks out in the beautiful sunshine, and um, showing each other like, oh, look at this foil. Have you looked at this art? Just like really being I don't know, childish, but in like a really good way, being in touch with our like, you know, inner boys or whatever. And
Yeah,
just,
our psyched, our
yeah,
just psyched inner board game kids.
totally. And then Troy opened up the new legendary shield and we all just went like, ah, ah, it was
Yeah,
so fun.
Troy is our guardian player as well. So,
Yeah.
it was very exciting. So what do you got to say about your first impressions? What do you think about? I mean, we have new packaging. We have a
Mm-hmm.
very colorful box. We
Mm-hmm.
have 10 cards per pack. We
Mm-hmm.
have, we have all these things that make it different than
Mm-hmm.
a limited set.
Yeah. So right away, the graphic design for the set is really great. They're my favorite boxes so far that we've had to see like fully out on display. They're really fun and colorful, and the paper wrapping is great. I do not ever want to go back to plastic ones. The paper feels really good in hand. It's great to open, and it's just like an even better feeling to go like, this is not plastic. This is way better, that I can
Yeah.
just then chuck all those wrappers into the fireplace after we're done, which is super cool for us country folk.
They also feel like heftier than the plastic. There are like concerns about, are your cards going to get damaged and all this, but
Yeah.
like I just opened a Tails pack for our upcoming segment, and it feels way flimsier than the paper ones. So I
Yeah.
don't think that is really an issue.
Yeah, totally. And then as far as like the uh individual cards and that sort of thing, the artwork in this set is, of course, again, just really top notch. And the foiling is really good. The card prints even seem better. Like we didn't have any weird like damaged cards or misfoils or anything like that. It was a really clean 4 boxes that we opened. My critique would be that I wish they had not spoiled all of the potions. I wish that was the part of the set we did not know about, because it would have been so fun to open all of those weird potions and talismans and amulets and stuff and be like, whoa, what is this? That that would have been a truly unique experience for sure.
I agree with you 110%. I actually don't really like spoilers because I mean I like the hype and I like having some spoilers, but I do like having some surprise on
Yeah.
Christmas morning when we get it
Yeah.
3 times a year.
Yeah.
But I practically they couldn't have any pack or box openings ahead of time for all the like box opening channels and stuff like that. If there were keeping something as a surprise, unfortunately.
Right.
To your design point, yeah. So I don't personally like the carny flavor or art or that whole group of generic cards that are like carnival flavored, and I don't even care. It's like
Yeah,
they
that's
did
how
it
good
in a
it
way
is, right?
that what's that?
That's just how good it is it's like,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Like
Yep.
those are kind of interesting and fun. And then the potions and talismans have their kind of own style and
Mm-hmm.
flavor of game mechanics and art and card design. And then they have, you know, kind of a different flavor like for each of the class cards that come out. Like there's some futuristic warrior cards and some like really trippy wizard cards, and just the set as a whole is not kind of put under the umbrella of just like one flavor of design space or
Yeah.
artistic
Yeah.
expression. So I think it works really well, as opposed to like a limited set like Aria or something where I mean, you have different talents, but you're in the same world. You're of this
Mm-hmm.
flavor. In this supplemental set, they're able to just give you like a nice smorgasbord.
Yeah.
It's
Although
great.
I think it would have been hilarious if all of the cards had carnival themed artwork. Like Viscera is like shooting baskets, into that little carnival like tiny basketball hoop for tickets or something. Like if the characters are are trying to throw like ping pong balls and like fish bowls to get their goldfish and stuff, like
That's too
that.
silly for me.
Oh my God, it would be so good. It
It
would be
would be
so
pretty funny
fun.
though to be killed by that card like in a CC tournament. You're like at nationals and it's the Viscera uh, ping pong in the duck cups.
Yeah, totally.
You're dead and out of nats. Get up and leave.
Yeah, or
So
Oldheim with cotton candy on his face or something like that. Oh, it would be so good. Uh, yeah, it was great. I have 2 more boxes showing up later today, and I'll be breaking those this week. So, pretty psyched on this set. It seems like it's going to impact the meta quite a bit. Segue. So, Isaac, who do you think really benefits the most? Which hero or heroes are taking the cake, winning the giant stuffed bear, ringing the bell on the whatever thing?
Um, so I guess first, right, you just have to talk about Bravo. This is kind of the set of Bravo. It seems like one of the legendaries, even like Skullcap also, but that was already printed, and the Fabled support Bravo. Got a bunch of new cards and a brand new hero with the largest card pool in the game, in addition to having been supported throughout the previous sets. So Bravo's got a lot of new tools,
Well,
both
he can't
classic
use
Bravo
the
and the new
shield.
Bravo.
Bravo can't use old Bravo. Regular boring Bravo can't use the new shield.
Yes, eccentric, flamboyant Carney Bravo may use the shield
Correct.
and all of the other goodies.
Yep.
Um, so, there's been a lot of deck building out there and testing with this new Bravo, and he seems quite powerful. What do you think about Bravo in this set?
Yeah, that's one of my big hits, right? Is that Bravo star of the show is insane, right? It's just out of control. Um, I would assume that people are going to start calling for bans pretty soon because it can just like high roll the crap out of you. Like last night, I got turn 1 Oaken Olded into turn 2 Crippling Crush. So that was really cool. And I was like down 20 life before I had anything going. So, but then it wound up being a very close game regardless. But, yeah, I think the biggest one is star of the show, especially early in the meta for sure.
Yeah, it is kind of nuts how powerful that character is so early already. I would agree. One thing we talked a little bit about is at least what we've been looking at a bit is that deck does kind of one of our testing partners made this comment. The deck really, really doesn't like disruption.
Yeah.
So if you're just trying to race or mid range, but play kind of your own games, it might be a bit overwhelming. But there may be ways to really, throw a wrench in his gears.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
So we'll see. We might not need any Bravo bans. Who knows?
Who knows for sure. Second on my list is Prism. I absolutely love what they've done with Prism. There's the new auras and stuff open up so many different play lines and efficiencies and just new stuff for Prism to explore, and it all seems very, very good. And it's hilarious too. Like the paragraphs in the release notes for all of the Prism cards or illusionist cards, excuse me, are comical. It's like we get some cards and it's like 2 bullet points, but then for Miraging Metamorph, it's like a whole text page of stuff you have to know about all of the new auras or the new attack actions and that sort of thing. So, yeah, just complicated interactions for sure, but very good and powerful too.
Yeah, Prism got. I mean, the best part about Guardian, right, is like maybe the Fable or the Shield and Star of the Show, and you got some other new cards, but I feel like the new cards that Prism got are like bump up her power level quite a lot. I'm not
Yeah,
positive what that deck will look like because there's not room to play all of these Prism lines you can think of, so you have to kind of find this sweet spot
yeah,
of play. But it it did feel like with the Prism being the first illusionist and a light illusionist, there were kind of these two different play styles, which made the deck very cool. But some of these new cards seem to have maybe melded or blurred the lines between, um, you know, whether you're going Aura Prism or Aggressive Herald Prism. Now it seems like you can just kind of be an illusionist and have like strengths from both.
yeah. It's crazy how many illusion, or excuse me, not illusions, but auras, just fly out onto the board so fast, and
Yeah.
then you just have this whole like crazy engine of tricky magic happening.
And very cool. The From Monarch, the spears art is really, really cool. And I'm glad to see all these like regular Prism cards released. That's much more my flavor than the light illusionist. I really like the
Yeah,
just the regular illusionist kind of flavor to that class.
yeah,
Um,
100%. It's really really cool. It's like always like pinks and blues and purples and stuff. I really like
yeah,
that
in the
color
moonlight
palette.
with
Yeah,
shards flying at you,
refractaling. Yeah, whatever that means.
and you're just dazzled as you're diced up.
Yeah, as some sort of enigma chimera eats you to death. Yeah.
My next character is Dash. I think that
Mm,
I'm unsure if Dash will be a top tier deck, but some of the tools Dash got are extremely interesting. Um, Namely, I should have had this pulled up, but Dash got a card that costs 2 and goes out for 2 turns. And if you would be dealt 1 damage, prevent one of it. So this obviously works against Prism
yeah,
and Rune
the
Chance.
sphere. Yeah.
Yeah. And in addition, any like when your opponent just floods you with 4 attack hit effect cards, you can just block with 3, and it also prevents that. And then, of course, you have to, pay for and play this card out, so that like makes that turn less good. So who knows exactly how good it'll be or how much play it'll get. But just reading the card, it seems really powerful. What do you think about Dash?
I think Dash for sure got some tools. I think that it seems okay. I'm not overly impressed with these things, but they are definitely tools to address things right away, which is for sure, it's something. But uh, how hard those things are to play around is yet to be seen, you know. And if you're doing any amount of boosting, you could just boost your second and third copy right off the top. And then people really loved the addition of T-Bone. Shout out to us for our spoiler. Um, and it's kind of the same thing, right? It's most impactful like late game, and if you have them in multiples, you know.
Yeah.
So I I reserve any judgment yet for Dash. That's my take on Dash.
Nice. All right. Anyone
My
else making the good eels?
Yeah, my last one for sure is Viscera. It seems like Viscera just got a bunch of tools, and they're all really good. And you just freaking slap them in that deck, and you're just off to the races again with like slightly better cards that are freaking awesome. So I think, Viscera is still going to be around and has the stuff to adapt to the meta so far, and still feels like a dark horse, even though it's a national winning deck. For whatever reason, it still feels like a dark horse.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that Viscera is no longer a dark horse because I agree. It's like, well, because before that deck was really good, but you had to have maybe your matchups dialed and your strategy is a bit complicated, and that's all fine. And the deck was great, but just the power level of some of the new cards and the lines you can take with them just kind of ramps it up. And, just casually have 20 damage turns like pretty often.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say, yeah, Viscera is definitely like S tier or top tier now.
Yeah. And some of the older Viscera cards just like got better. Like now you can, for a blue, Rattle Bones, a Swarming, or Gloomveil, and
Yeah.
then it gets Go again, and then you can come in with Rosetta. Like that's just so awesome for Rattle Bones, to like give that card some more
Yeah.
just play,
Yeah, because Rattlebones cost 2 and then Rosetta costs 1. And you're making rune chance along the way during this turn. And it's just, yeah, it's pretty nuts. I played some games where swarming just gets played like 5 times and you're just very swarmed.
Yeah, apt names. So yeah.
My last 2 characters with big wins, I'm gonna group together. Azalea and Kano, which we can talk about separately. But these are 2 characters that had just a very small card pool and weren't like fully fleshed out support wise. Like an Azalea used to just run nimblism because it's free and does what you want. Or like, Kano, most of your blues are just trash. They just block for 3 and aren't the worst hitting them off the top. It's just like because that's what you have. But both of these characters, I don't know if either of them will be really good, but they both got a nice suite of powerful cards. So that's very exciting, I think, for both Azalea and Kano players.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I have not dipped into either of those card pools. Just I'm overwhelmed with the other 3 or 4 heroes we mentioned, trying to like, learn what's going on over there. But yeah, Kano, especially Kano, just like if I was a Kano main, I would be just over the moon just to rebuild that whole deck and figure out, does it actually have a place in the meta now?
Definitely. And they gave Kano that. I thought this was interesting because they did not give him a tool to pop 4-cost auras. So that's still like a huge or, hugely oppressive, but they did give him a card to destroy all 0-cost auras and deal damage to Prism for each one destroyed, which, I mean, that's obviously very powerful. I don't know if it gets you over the mountain of new Prism, but that was pretty interesting design space. And yeah, I don't know if Azalea still has a pretty low damage ceiling, but does have access to dominate. And I mean, nowadays it's kind of piddling damage, to be honest, but doing 8 a turn or 11 a turn is like not where you want to be. But I thought she got some interesting tools in that maybe now she has like a role in the game. Whereas before you're pretty much the underdog in every matchup. And now it seems like she can kind of police or bully, decks that rely a bit too heavily on just a bunch of defense reactions.
Right.
Or kind of like turtling and I have a better weapon. Or, like trying to just soak it up and make you beat them. Now you can run Release the Tensions and Dreadbores and Remorseless and Remembrance and Memorial Ground, and really, really go to town on those characters. So, and Battering Bolt with dominate. So yeah, I'm unsure how it'll play out, but it is cool to just like, now have a strength or a role maybe versus, just trying real hard.
Right. Yeah. A bit of an identity to the
Yeah.
deck, you know. So some misses for me, and I'm not going to go too deep into these, but some misses, I think for sure top of the list is Brute. I don't understand the card design of that class, albeit my understanding of it is limited. And I think that Bolton also kind of got housed a little bit. He's already so tied to his talent that it doesn't seem like he gets much benefit from some of these new cards, and if you're at home going, well, like Sabers seems still pretty good, that we don't acknowledge Sabers on this podcast.
Taylor's not talking to you.
Yeah. So yeah, those are kind of my two, slightly disappointed card pools for those two heroes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll throw, I mean, Brute did get, I really like Bare Fangs and Swing Big, but it just doesn't feel like enough at the moment. It does feel like both Benji and KO got like the dream suite of cards, and Brute and Ninja, didn't really get what they wanted. You know what I mean? I know some people are huge fans of 100 wins and all that, but just saying, their Blitz characters did seem to get some cool new tools, but the adults were a bit left out. I do have a theory though that, like I said, Guardian has been, unlike, Ninja and Brute and maybe Warrior, even with the Bolton release, Guardian has been like supported throughout every single set to some degree, and given like, even if it's just Zealous Belting and a few and Rouse and stuff like that.
Just a little breadcrumbs.
Yeah, totally. They've been keeping them competitive. And now after all that, we get a big Brute supplemental or Guardian supplemental set. So my theory is that the next set in the game is going to be like a Ninja and Brute Savage Land set or something like that, that doesn't give Bravo any support.
I love it. The set's been out for 3 days and you're already got the tinfoil hat on for the next set.
Totally. Well, you look at the pattern and you would have thought maybe both Katsu and Reinar might have been given a little bit more of a power bump. I don't know, but
yeah.
That's just how it feels, and you can't equally support everybody all the time. Obviously, I'm not like complaining about the set. I'm just saying it looks to me like the next set might be like a Katsu or a Reinar, or maybe a Prism. I don't know.
Yeah. I will say about the set, the heroes that did get a ton of help are just all of the young Blitz Crucible heroes. Like those are all wins for sure. And we forgot to mention about Skirmish Season 4 as well.
Oh, right. Will be Blitz.
And it will be Blitz. So we will get kind of some immediate usage out of some of these new cards and new archetypes, which I got to say, I'm pretty excited to sleeve up a Kasai deck and blitz around and probably get roasted by a Kano and beat to crap by an Ira. But at least I have new cards and I will play some games with those new cards.
I'll meet you down there in the losers bracket, buddy. I'm going to sleeve up KO now that he has an actual strategy and some cards to do it with,
Hell yeah.
And,
you're
don't know how to deal with Ira, but
a known bad dice roller. So I worry for you on that day,
Just why you got to roll like 6 of them in a turn. Something will happen.
Fair enough. Volume shooting. It's
Totally.
like the early 2000s basketball idea. Just freaking hoist them up there, baby.
Yep. If you only take 3 seconds on your possession, you're going to get a lot more of them.
Yeah, exactly. 7 seconds or less. Shout out to the Phoenix Suns and Steve Nash. Okay. Any other thoughts about the heroes and their card pools and that sort of thing before we kind of delve into the opening days of the ProQuest?
Yeah, I just have a quick question for you. Because you played Dorinthia quite a lot. I was just
Mm-hmm.
wondering what do you think of Dorinthia? Um, or Warrior in general, maybe.
Yeah.
But there are some hot new Warrior cards, but like, does it, get her there or?
I'm not really sure. It feels like it did in Monarch. Like, well, I have this array of weapons I could just slap onto Dorinthia and see how they all work, you know? And it only seems like that based on like, well, these are a bunch of new tools and Dorinthia is historically pretty good, so maybe these work. But even then it's like just kind of like it's like a whole thing you
Yeah,
still got to do. You know what I mean? Uh you got to hit with your you got to output enough damage to keep up with everybody else, right?
right.
And I don't know how two uh weapons that attack for 2 can outdo star of the show when he comes in for uh 13 dominate with go again, you know?
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'll swing this sword at you, reaction, give it go again, and my next sword comes in for 5. Sweet, I did 7 damage. Ha.
Took my whole hand.
Took my whole hand. Okay. Oakenhold for 11.
Totally. Isn't it weird they gave Bravo the go again ability? I mean, I get the harder to pull off dominate and buff and all that, but like go again is just the antithesis of Guardian.
Yeah,
It was,
it
I was like, what?
go again is like the best thing on a card ever.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the game is go again most of the
And
time.
Guardian's rad, just was lacking in the go again, but
Yeah. Maybe if they
not
gave
anymore.
Dorinthia like a third arm that holds a free sword, that would be the way to go.
My only thought was that, you know, these characters with good weapons, and I'm not talking about like Reinar's club or like even a Nothos anymore, maybe, but characters with really powerful, cheap weapons give you this like small form of card advantage, because
Mm-hmm.
with 1 or 2 resources, you're just tacking on. Like, look at Rosetta,
Yeah.
1 floating resource and go again, and you come in for 5 with Viscera. So I was just wondering if, with a 3 card hand, um, in the axes or something, if they'd up the damage output of that kind of thing enough that you could
Yeah, I
capitalize
mean,
on
with
that.
with a 3 card hand and the axes and one of those cards is a blue, I think you wind up with like 8 damage, you
Hmm.
know, which
But
is
no
like
hit effect.
yeah, you know. So
Yeah.
like if it's that plus whatever the one is that gives your one-handed weapons go again and +3, you know. So
Yeah, still
uh
not overwhelmingly great.
yeah, totally.
I do have to shout out Lavia did not get anything.
Oh,
Just
right.
as a Lavia player, you
Yeah.
really, I mean, you're probably going to throw 3 swing bigs in because that card's just really good. But, no shadow cards, no, I don't know, maybe Bear Fangs. It's just like didn't
Yeah.
get much. Just going to have
Yeah.
to wait for the next shadow set when
That's
all the other
because
talents have been released.
that's because Levia's OP already and they know it in this meta.
Yeah, she's already broken. Have to
Yeah,
just
now
figure
she
it out.
is. Now that Briar is a little hamstrung. Here comes Levia. Watch out.
Just figure out what to do about star of the show.
I don't know, tank the damage and roll scab skins and wear skull crushers and go
Hit
to
roll a
town.
6.
Yeah, that's how you play brute. Obviously, is what
Totally.
LSS said. They're like, you
Yeah.
want RNG? I'll give you RNG. You know?
Yeah, I probably said this before, but I was a little, but I know it leans into the KO aspect, and maybe some of the RNG is some of the fun for some Brute players. But Brute has this really subtle tempo management that is actually quite difficult, like playing Rhinar and CC, and pretty interesting. And it just felt like in this set they did not lean into, that's something that players also appreciate about Brute, and they didn't really lean into that very much. They just want you to roll more dice, which every real Brute player has been like, okay, the secret to winning is actually not rolling dice. You just have to like, plan and tempo manage really well. Here's all these new cards about die rolling. But again, there'll be another Brute set someday, so it'll all work out.
Totally. We can get really upset then. So that'll be fun. Okay. Let's transition to kind of what are your kind of early thoughts in that first, maybe even the second weekend of the ProQuest events? What do you think is going to happen? What's panning out?
First thought was I was kind of hoping Star of the Show would be a bit clunky at first, but in the back of my mind, I knew that with such a large card pool, weapons and equipment included, that this hero would probably be really powerful. And I think that we've seen that he is a bit of a force. There will be ways to beat him, I think, and I hope.
Yeah.
But so my call is that Bravo is going to be huge, and Prism,
Which
because
Bravo?
people love Prism. What?
Which Bravo?
I would bet both, to be honest.
Oh.
There's a lot of Bravo mains, and people love Bravo. And then Star of the Show might be like the best new hotness deck, right? So I'm going to call both. And then Prism counters Guardian fairly well, and people also love Prism, right? You could throw Dash into that mix as well. So that's my call. And of course, Viscera. We already talked about Viscera. He's going to be pretty good. Heroic Briar is still very good, but I don't personally much like that deck. It feels kind of like you're trying to high roll your opponent and not just draw your blues and no channel, because then you really don't do that much.
Right.
So that deck's pretty fun to play and pretty aggressive, but I don't know. I think it needs a bit of tweaking to maintain. Could be wrong though. It's still very powerful. All right, that was my little ramble. What do you see happening in this dynamic I laid out?
Well, so I think there's going to be a small minority of players, such as myself, who are trying to figure out what the best decks are and to have kind of a deck that works around that. Like countering that or playing into those. But then there are players like potentially you, Isaac, who are just like, woo, new tools for my favorite hero. I'll just throw it out there and play with it in this first weekend and see if it was good. Maybe it's the right call. I don't know. And I think that's going to be the majority of the field is going to be people who are just happy to have new stuff for their favorite hero and are just going to be like, well, could be good. I think it's good. Let's see what happens,
Plus, players like me are just looking for an excuse to have fun. It's like new Azalea tools. Oh, Azalea might have it. I love playing Azalea. I'm just going to play Azalea.
Yeah, totally. That's why you're the people's favorite, I think, out of us two. People just love you for that reason, that you just stick to your guns.
Thanks. I don't know about that. I think you're very handsome as well.
Well, thanks.
I mean, popular, or I don't
know. Thank you. So I think that's what's going to happen. Definitely the first 2 weekends, not so much maybe in the second weekend to the same degree, but like not everybody will get to go to the opening weekend of stuff And then the second weekend, we'll probably just see a repeat of the first one, maybe an uptick in whatever decks wind up to win and that sort of thing. But yeah, I think it's impossible really to predict what's going to happen. Now, what do I think is going to like win the most pro quests in the early part of the meta? I'm going to say it's going to be Prism. Like gets the most wins. That's my hot take.
Nice. God, I want to say Viscera, you know. That
I
deck
want to
it
too,
just
but
seems pretty good.
it's super good, but people just like don't play it, you know?
Yeah, that's I think more people are looking at it.
Probably because it won, but Prism also won, and
Yeah,
Guardians did
true.
really well, and people already, for whatever reason, love those decks much more than they love the Batman of the game,
Viscera is
Viscera.
very much the Batman of the game.
He totally is.
Yeah, so a couple points about what you just said. I think there's kind of two ways you can go about it, right? Like you can look at all of the new stuff and try to outline like, okay, these are the 5 best decks coming up as best as we can figure out. So then you get reps into them, you get a game plan into that, and you figure that out and, you know, probably stand a pretty good chance, right? That does take quite a lot of commitment and like brainstorming and deck building, not only for yourself, but to figure out your opponents. And you'll probably still get surprised to some degree, but that's obviously like the best approach. The other approach, right, is you can go with a very proactive game plan and a character or class that you're very comfortable piloting. And I think that that kind of puts you in a pretty good position, right? Because you're going to be probably better than whoever just net decked star the show and doesn't know what to do when you put him in a tough position. Or Taylor's killing me. Nobody can see what's happening. There, Brad. Maybe not. Hey, you on your like very familiar deck with a proactive approach are probably going to be better than somebody who net decks something is unfamiliar with it.
Mm-hmm.
But you might lose to the, you know, the other strategy I mentioned where they're actually like upgraded and planned for this you know, potential encounter. But you know, I think so when you talked about all of us who go back to our favorites, it's like, yeah, that, I mean, to be honest, that's not the meta call, but it does have its strengths, right? Like, you know what you're doing, you're executing it well, and that can give you an edge in some matchups.
Yeah, totally, especially early. I
Yeah.
think the inverse of that is also true, is that like people will be like, well, I'll just play crazy control and see if their deck is good enough to just beat straight fatigue, you
Oh
know,
yeah.
that
I
like
mean, that's
always
a
shows up
proactive
early.
approach.
Oh, yeah, I suppose
You know?
so. It
Yeah.
seems like a not
Reactive
so
approach.
much. Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
I
the
think
opposite.
you're right. By proactive approach, I just meant like um you show up with a plan and you execute it. You
Gotcha.
know, it's well dialed. And that usually comes in terms of like uh you know, like Saber's Bolton or like full on aggro or full on control or something like that.
Right. Right.
But it's just like very, that's what I mean. Like a very aggressive plan or aggressively controlled plan, if that makes
Yeah.
sense, you
Yeah.
know,
Yep. It totally does make sense.
and make your
Um,
opponent adapt and win.
right. Yeah. Like, can you just beat me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Nope. You can't. Ha! I win. You know. Um, I do know that I'm very excited for ProQuest season to happen. It's just going to be really great to see the meta shape and change, and I'm excited to get to play in it. With the caveat, if my basketball team just keeps winning games, then I will miss out on the whole ProQuest because we will just be, you know. I mean, yeah,
I mean, that's
it's
cool too.
yeah, it's totally cool. I think the section championship game is the weekend we're scheduled to go to Portland. So if we make it all the way there, I will be playing for something bigger than a ProQuest.
Mitch Thomas and I will still be going to Portland, so don't breathe too easy, Portland.
Yeah. And I'll get up there one of these days. But who knows? We could lose in the first round of the playoffs, and then it's just ProQuest season until my sleeves fall apart or something.
I'm a little bit nervous about ProQuest. So I decided to go on a last minute trip right now. So I will be gone and just gone until the start of ProQuest season instead of practicing for ProQuest season. So I'm a little bit apprehensive in that vein or in that department. But at the same time, you have to win one of these tournaments to qualify. So I did not have like expectations of winning. Like this game's pretty hard and there is, quite a bit of variance, not in a bad way, but it's just difficult to set out to win a tournament. Unless you like really are grinding it out and have also broken the game.
Well, you're just going to show up. You have this great plan of you're going to go commune with nature for like 2 weeks and just live in the mountains and just climb them and defeat a literal gigantic slab of rock. And then you're just going to come back grizzled and super bearded and smelly. And that will be hard to sit across from is like, who is this man who has not only a overwhelming scent, but an overwhelming sense of confidence across the table from me.
Totally, just like an enlightened still pond.
Yeah,
of executing my cards.
Yeah, totally.
You gave away my plan.
It'd be all telekinesis too. You won't even touch the cards. They'll just float in front of you like in TTS.
Well, excellent. If this plan doesn't work out though, then I'm going to get home and I will be practicing for the next events.
It'll be one hell of a podcast though, if it does work out. So
totally.
Cool. Do you got any more thoughts on the meta or anything before we move into our signature segments?
I don't think so. Just reiterate, play something you're good at playing. I mean, granted, some decks like Cheerios Briar merit pivoting to, right? So that advice has limits, but also being good at the deck you're piloting, does have some strengths.
Nice.
I think that's it. Also, again, you have to win one of these things, so it's like I don't even know how to take that. Yeah, I mean, you won a road to Nat, so
yeah,
it might be just fine, but
might be fine.
It's just a lofty goal.
You just got to get a little lucky though, too, Yeah. All right.
You want to take us in?
Yeah. So first up in our signature segments is Pick, Pass, Pray. It's a draft scenario. I'm going to give you 3 cards, and you're going to pick one, pass one, and pray one comes back around. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, perfect. And this is we're going to still do Tales of Aria because that's a draftable set. We might get a little bored and throw some Everfest cards in there, but a little less realistic for the mind puzzle that we have in this segment. So here we go. Without further ado, our first card up is Sigil of Suffering Red. Pitches for 1, cost 0, is a Runeblade defense reaction, so it defends for 3. And it reads, deal 1 arcane damage to the attacking hero. If you have dealt arcane damage this turn, Sigil of Suffering gains +1 defense. Whenever you swallow, you will taste ash. Wherever you tread, you will feel thorns. That's our first card.
Sounds delightful.
Second card is Mark of Lightning. This is a lightning equipment arms, and it defends for 0. But it reads, Whenever a lightning or elemental attack you control is defended by a card from hand, you may destroy Mark of Lightning. If you do, the attack deals 1 damage to the defending hero. Our third and final card is Lightning Surge, yellow. Pitches for 2, costs 0, and is a lightning attack action. 2 defense and 3 attack power. If Lightning Surge is played from Arsenal, it gains Go Again. So, Isaac, which one are you going to pick, pass, and pray comes back around?
I actually really like all 3 of these cards, but I'm going to pick Mark of Lightning. I think it's really, really powerful. Besides Deep Blue, it's like my favorite equipment, and in such a fast format with so many like damage amplifying things. This equipment's probably worth like 3 damage in every game, and it starts out there, and you can always use it. So that to me is extremely powerful. I'm going to hope that Sigil of Suffering comes back around. I would kind of like Lightning Surge, but Sigil of Suffering is just 0 for a 5 damage point swing, which is pretty nuts, and can also protect you from the like one super good Lexi player that drafted at your table. So I think that has quite a bit of value. Just blocking the dominated arrows over and over, because if you can actually get around that dominate, then the Lexi becomes way less good. You can also close out games with it. Players get down to 1 life pretty often actually in this format. I do really like Lightning Surge yellow, but it's being a lightning and go again is a bit redundant most of the time in Lexi. It is really good in Briar getting to Rosetta, I think, but these are 3 good cards, so that didn't make the cut. All right, Taylor, back to you.
Cool. I'm going to agree with you on the Mark of Lightning. Pick 1. Just a really great arms. And if I wind up being in lightning, then it's super useful. And it's part of like a game-winning combo, so you're not too upset by picking that pack 1, pick 1. My card I'm going to pass on, though, is the Lightning Surge. Just weighing that versus Sigil of Suffering, I would rather wheel Sigil of Suffering red. Unlikely, but that's why I'm praying that this happens. Just because it's just slightly better. It also closes out games and saves you 4 damage, and is just a really powerful card. So Sigil of Suffering is what I'm going to pray, and definitely pass on Lightning Surge. If it was the red one, I might be more inclined, because that's at like just a great break point. And you don't really like care to pitch Lightning Surge and see it late game, because it's a yellow, because you want to get it in Arsenal anyway. So it having the extra resource costs and not being at that 0 for 4 break point is like not as worth it. So
Nice.
That's what I'm going with.
Totally agreed that time.
Did we? I thought you passed on Sigil of Suffering and prayed for
praying for Sigil, as did you.
Oh, dang it. Well, not dang it, but great job.
Yeah.
We totally agreed.
Smoked
Teamwork.
that draft.
Yeah. Maybe I'll also gain telekinetic powers at the end of my enlightenment journey as well. Okay, Isaac, I believe you have a Riddle Me This.
I do. On this episode's Riddle Me This, I would like to talk about Talisman of Recompense. I've been thinking about this card a lot, and I'm unsure if it's good. So this is maybe more of a, do you, the audience, think this card is good? And so here are my arguments.
Well, will you read me what the card does? Because,
yes.
I'm at home listening in my car on my way to my commute.
It's a yellow pitch for 2, 0 cost, generic action item, does not block. It does have Go Again when you play it. Whenever you pitch a card, if you would gain exactly 1 resource, instead destroy Talisman of Recompense and gain 3 resources. And it's a rare. So my arguments for this item is it generates the same amount of resources as an energy potion, but has go again when you play it. So you don't have to sacrifice an action point in order to get it on the board. I don't know if that's good enough to compensate for it not being a blue and not having a choice as to when this card triggers, right? You can't save it for the end game when you need a bunch of resources. It triggers the first time you would pitch a red or, use your tunic. But tunic for 3 is pretty sweet. Just the appeal to this card for me is that it is a yellow. It doesn't use an action point to play. So in decks where you're fine with having a yellow to pitch, it functions that way. Or if you are able to get it out, then it fixes your next red hand. In decks where that can happen or that really matters, and that has quite a lot of value. Anyway, don't know if it's good, but it might. What do you think there, buddy?
I have no clue about any potion, amulet, or talisman.
Fair enough.
I'm just assuming they don't exist because they don't block. And if the meta is slow enough to where you can play non-block cards in your deck, then I will then think about it. So I think the argument you laid out has some merit, but I also don't know. So that's why it's in Riddle Me This segment.
Nice. So for our next segment, here at the Attack Action Podcast, we like to play a lot of different board games, not just Flesh and Blood. And sometimes we like to share one of those games with you. This is maybe not the best game in the world or necessarily our favorite, but it's a game we really love and hope you might enjoy too. This episode's board game from the closet is Taylor's board game.
Thank you, Isaac. My board game from the closet is Welcome to the Dungeon. Newly rediscovered game that I had on my shelf. And the other night, me, Isaac, and Mitch were like, we should still play a game. We're not like too tired yet, but we can't commit to something longer. Boom, in comes Welcome to the Dungeon. So the basic premise is that there is like one fantasy character in the middle of the table, and you're playing chicken with the other people at the table to either psych them out to go into the dungeon where you have set up all manner of monsters they can't beat, or you're just the first coward who says, I'm not going into the dungeon, or your opponents kind of flip the script on you and make you go into the dungeon. And so on your turn, you draw from this common stack of monsters, and the known quantity of every monster is public information, but the monster that you personally have is not. And so you take that monster and you can either break a piece of valuable equipment that the hero needs to fight in the dungeon, or you can put that monster face down into the dungeon. And then once 2 or 3, depending on your player numbers, pass in subsequent turns, then the odd man out odd person out who didn't pass then goes into the dungeon to face all of the monsters. And then you either win the game by being the last person standing, or by defeating 2 dungeons before anybody else does. And it's just really fun, like mind games and kind of puffing yourself up like, oh yeah, I'm not afraid, oh crap, I died. So it's just a really fun, quick social game.
Yeah, it is really good. And how it kind of plays out is, so with like 3 of us, right, on my turn, if I don't think if I think the dungeon's too easy, I can either like weaken the hero or strengthen the dungeon. But then you and Mitch can both pass and send me into the dungeon that I just made harder. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Or
I can
weakened
pass
yourself. Yeah.
and then Mitch could pass and we can send Taylor in, but the dungeon might not be hard enough, so he wins.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
really fun little interaction there. Fun fact, you cannot use Tunic to generate resources for a Talisman of Recompense because it says you need to pitch a card. I just read.
Whew.
And another just last thing about this set, I really love all of the items they released. I really, really love them. Some of them are unplayable at the moment, but most of them have very powerful mechanics that may be utilized at some point in some meta with some combination of cards. So I think that that's very cool to throw out all these very powerful tools to see how they may get utilized later down the road.
Cool. I'm glad you got to talk about that again.
Well, I felt like we didn't give the items the love they deserve, so I just did it again, I guess.
Nice. Anyway, welcome to the dungeon. It's a tiny box. It travels well, plays 4. It's cheap, and it's a good time.
Oh, sorry. I did not mean to interrupt your board game from the closet. I thought that that's awkward. I thought that was over.
Yeah, that's why I made that comment, bro.
Sorry.
And
what I said was meant to go after that segment.
Yeah, and I could use the power of technology and just put that where it needs to be or something, but we're just going to leave all of this in because,
Nice.
Why not?
That's how we roll.
Hell yeah. Well, that's our show. Bit of a shorter one for us, but, that's okay. They all can't be 2-hour bangers, so hopefully you enjoyed this episode, and we hope to hear from you. We appreciate all of you.
We'll see you for the next episode where we give a in-depth meta game analysis of the current ProQuest season and all the things that have happened and what we think, and just the wild, wacky new strategies everyone's employing, including 100%. Us.
Yeah. Cool. See you next time, everybody. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at the Attack Action Podcast. On Twitter, we are at BattleBroTaylor and at BattleBroIsaac. Shoot us an email, theattackactionpodcast@gmail.com.
If you would like to support us, like and subscribe, shop for singles using our affiliate link, or support our Patreon for as little as $4 per month.